Order the Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting of July 12, 2022. Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Hutton, absent. Powers,
Here.
Luttrell,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
Firewalker.
Here.
I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Your interest in city government is appreciated. There are a number of opportunities to speak on matters of city business this evening. A sheet explaining those opportunities has been made available to you when entering the meeting room. As we go forward with tonight's agenda, I will note each time when public comment is welcome. In addition, a sign-up sheet has been provided as you enter the council chamber for those individuals desiring to address City Council during the appearance of citizens section of our agenda. This time, I'd like to ask Councilwoman Lee Powers to lead us in our invocation, and following our invocation, Vice Mayor Turner will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our kind, most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for the challenges that you presented to us so that we may rise to the occasion to understand or to have a greater understanding of the needs of our community. We pray for wisdom as we go through this evening. We pray for our community at large, for their health, safety, and security. We pray for our first responders, for our police, our firefighters. We pray for our school system as they are soon to embark on a new school year with our children. We pray that you would lead, guide, and direct us in all that we do and the decisions that are made here this evening. In your Son's Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Sword, do you have any items to be added to the agenda this evening?
No, Mayor, the agenda is complete.
We have one proclamation and one recognition on this evening's agenda. First, we have a proclamation designating the month of July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month. I would like to ask Councilwoman Margaret Firerobin to read the proclamation. With us tonight is Mr. Mike Music, Recreation Superintendent, to receive the proclamation.
Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including here in the city of Bristol, Tennessee. And whereas parks and recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas parks and recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas parks and recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education. Whereas Parks and Recreation programming and educational activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, extension of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, crime reduction, and is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, And whereas the City of Bristol, Tennessee recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore the Mayor of Bristol, Tennessee proclaims July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month, this 12th day of July 2022, signed by Mayor Malin Luttrell.
I said, while you're having your picture made, I'll just share that as the proclamation suggested, Parks and Rec is critically important. I've had the pleasure of speaking with some this evening about the new skate, or the relocation of our skate park, how much that means to the community, as well as I've had a grandson to participate in camp at the Nature Center, outstanding, and I understand it was completely booked out this summer. And I just left watching teams play kickball over at Rotary Field, having a tremendous time. So I think Parks and Rec takes on many different shapes and forms, doesn't it? But I think our department does an outstanding job. Thank you.
And before Mike talks, just so people know, that kickball is like ages 10, 12 to 82,
There are
whatever.
some that are 70
Anybody who has
plus,
knees that can do it. So.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, thank you all very much. I didn't realize we did all that. I thought we just got together and had fun, but now in all seriousness, we've got a lot of folks on our team that work really, really hard so that these citizens of Bristol, Tennessee and the area can have fun and enjoy their leisure time and downtime, and hopefully add to the quality of their lives. So thank you all for the recognition.
The city has over 350 full and part-time employees that serve the community on a daily basis. We frequently hear of employees that go above and beyond in their service. To that end, the Bristol First program has been developed to recognize their efforts. Tonight, we honor our latest recipient of the Bristol First Award. Ms. Ann Dunham, Digital Media and Communications Manager, is here to present, to give us a brief overview of the program and to announce tonight's award winner.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's award is the result of actions that began on June 3rd when the manager of a local apartment complex placed a call to voice concern about 2 toddlers within her development who were not being properly supervised. Senior Patrol Officer Chesney Rourke and Officer Michelle Meade were dispatched to the scene, and after ensuring the children were safe, went to speak with their mother. They immediately realized that the family was facing serious financial struggles. Not only had she recently become a single parent, but the young mother reported that her car had broken down, and as a result, she had lost her job. The 2 officers assessed the situation and offered the appropriate help and referrals in their official capacity with the city's police department before leaving. But as you've probably guessed, the story doesn't end here. Officer Rourke and Officer Meade realized the family was suffering and needed help with the most basic necessities. Using their own money, they each purchased items including diapers, laundry detergent, soap, and other personal hygiene items, milk, fruit, oatmeal, and other healthy foods, plus clothing for the children. Because of the close relationship between our police officers and Central Dispatch, E911 dispatcher Charles E. Schaefer soon learned about the family situation and joined in the effort, also purchasing needed clothing and shoes for the children. Combined, the 3 ladies spent several $100s to purchase these much-needed items and then delivered them to the family. The Bristol First Award was created in 2014 to recognize city employees for their dedication to public service. We sometimes recognize exceptional service performed while on the job, and other times, like tonight, those who spend their own time and their own resources to assist a member of our community. I think you'll agree that these 3 members of the Bristol, Tennessee Police Department took the slogan to protect and serve to a new level by helping this young family in need. So tonight, upon the recommendation of Lieutenant Matt Cousins and Police Chief Matt Austin, it's my pleasure to present Bristol First Awards to Senior Patrol Officer Chesney Rourke, Officer Michelle Meade, and Need 911 Dispatcher Charles E. Schaefer.
Okay, we have no presentation on tonight's agenda, so we'll move on to the Board of Education Liaison Report. And there's Dr. Tudor.
Good evening, everyone. Wasn't quite ready. I was ready to sit back and enjoy the meeting for a little while. Didn't realize I was rearranged on the agenda, so thank you for that. I just have a few announcements for you all this evening. As Councilwoman Powers mentioned in the invocation, we are getting ready to start school again, if you can believe it, which is a shock. I'm surprised. We're just 2 weeks from today, teachers will be back, and then less than a week after that, we'll have students back. So the summer has gone very quickly. For the public and for our families, we just want folks to know that, number one, we're very excited about welcoming our families back, and we're almost ready for you. We will be ready in a couple of weeks. As folks remember, the past 2 years, due to the pandemic, we've had free breakfast and lunch for all of our students, regardless of their ability to pay. That is no longer an option. The federal government has changed those guidelines, and they revert back to where we were pre-pandemic. And so our families will have to apply for free or reduced lunches and breakfasts this coming school year. So we're going to have to revisit the application process. So I just want to publicly get that out to folks and let them know that that's going to be a requirement again this year. We have 2 weeks left of the summer, and we're still distributing meals on our lunch box, our food trucks that we have, and we still have the book bus for a couple of more weeks. So those opportunities will end next week. So our families can visit our website for the schedule of that. Recently, our Board of Education revised a policy and passed a new protocol for this coming school year that tuition at Fairmount Elementary School will be free, so students living outside the city of Bristol can attend Fairmount Elementary for free if they so choose. They just need to apply. Part of the reason for that is our school board was passionate about offering our families and families in our region an option. School choice is becoming a prevalent thing in the state of Tennessee, and so we want to be competitive where that stands. But we also recognize that Fairmount is our newest elementary school. We've also lost students there pre-pandemic and due to the pandemic, so it's a strategy for us to entice and encourage those folks back to that beautiful building, almost brand new, waiting for students. So that's a great opportunity. We also recently, the state legislature passed a new law in the spring that revised the uniform grading scale. It actually was a revision for high school, in particular grades 9 through 12, to align to the grading scale at colleges and universities, which is a 10-point grading scale. So rather than an A being 93 to 100, it's now going to be 90 to 100, and so on and so forth, which is a very positive thing. It benefits students, certainly. It also aligns our transfer credits and that sort of things to dual enrollment, makes it much easier at the high school level. Our school board voted recently to revise that to be consistent in grades 2 through 12, so that is a significant change for our families. We will have a new grading scale that's a 10-point scale for grades 2 through 12 this school year and beyond. And then finally, just some dates. As I mentioned, we're close to starting school year. Freshman orientation at Tennessee High School is July 21st. New teachers report on the 25th. All teachers return on the 26th. Then we have in-service and work days. And then laptop distributions for our families will occur on the 25th and 26th for elementary schools. That's driven by your school, so they can visit our website for that schedule. Middle and high school students receive their laptops the first week of school when they return. And parents do not need to be present for middle or high school families, but the elementary parents do need to attend with their children for laptop distribution. That's all I have, unless you all have questions for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have two public hearings scheduled on tonight's agenda. This public hearing is hereby open for Ordinance 22-8, amending the city zoning map by designating certain property in Fox Meadows Subdivision as PRD, Planned Residential District. Mr. Sawyer, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to. Actually, both public hearings are linked very closely to the redevelopment of the Fox Meadow, or to the development of the Fox Meadow subdivision. Both 92-8 and Ordinance 92-9 that we'll hear about momentarily are requested. The rezoning is requested from the Ardent Development Group. The first 22-8 is seeking the rezoning of 23.29 acres of property located to the south of the Fox Meadow subdivision. This area is already inside the city limits and is currently zoned R2. The request of the owner is to amend the zoning designation to PRD, Planned Residential District. The PRD zoning requirements or regulations will provide the owner-developer with more flexibility as they address the land, specifically to lesser setback requirements and a greater flexibility in fitting the project in on the available land and the contour of the available land. Much like 22-8 and 22-9, both of them are related to a proposed residential single-family development, which will see 176 homes as proposed and approximately $60 million capital investment in the project. So the Planning Commission reviewed this matter on May 16th. There was a motion to forward a favorable recommendation. However, that motion did not pass on a 4-4 vote. So this is before you this evening. Council considered this matter during your June 7th meeting and favorably approved it on first reading. And so Sheriff Young, our planning director, will detail the land uses, and we may not need to talk as much about this in the public hearing for 22-9, but I think it's important to contrast the difference in land uses between the R2 and the PRD districts. So, Sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Sora. Good evening, Mayor Luttrell, City Council members. I do have some slides just to provide some background and history on this item, but we'll try to go through them quickly and can certainly slow down if any questions arise on any particular slide. But as Mr. Sora stated in his introduction, we are talking about the city parcel with this public hearing. So this is the parcel that has been within city limits this entire time we've talked about the Fox Meadows development. You can see surrounding the area, you have some vacant farmland type uses. The predominant land use in the area on the city parcels is R2, A1 in Sullivan County, and then here are the newly annexed parcels within the city limits. Just a little history on Fox Meadows. This area was annexed in the early 2000s. It was developed in 4 phases with a preliminary plat, but only 3 phases have been final platted. 61 lots here, phase 1 in 2004, phase 2 in the blue area in 2010 with 54 lots, and phase 3 in 2017 with 23 lots. This is the remaining phase that was never developed, and this is the new property line that was created by the property owner in 2001. So then this is the area we're talking about for new development of this new PRD zoned area. The Planning Commission has reviewed a concept plan for this project. So this is a illustration of the 176 lot development that the Planning Commission has reviewed. No approval at this time, but they have seen this concept plan. Quick summary of permitted uses in these zones. In R2, this is the city R2 zone. You have single family and duplex dwelling units. Any use that's permitted in the RM zone. And then residential densities at 9 units per acre. Within the city's new PRD zone that was effective at the end of June, you have the allowance of single-family and duplex residential structures and multifamily structures at 6 units per acre. And then in Sullivan County, the Sullivan County A1 zone, you have allowance for single-family homes, manufactured homes, some cultural and recreational services, educational facilities, cemeteries, golf courses, and agricultural uses. This is the summary table we've looked at a couple different times, and I'll kind of just keep going unless anybody has any particular questions about this, but this shows the comparison of the R2 and the PRD development regulations in terms of setbacks, lot space, building area, and height. As Mr. Soares stated, this PRD zone does allow for some flexibility in terms of not having those same required setbacks, but does cap the overall density at a lesser amount than the R2 zone allows. The PRD zone also requires a minimum of 10 acres to rezone, so you won't have small parcels or small sections of land requesting the rezoning to this PRD zone unless they have a assembled 10 acres. This slide you all reviewed at the last City Council meeting, but it kind of lays out the density math here, and this, of course, is just the straight density numbers per the zoning ordinance, doesn't include any of the development elements that sort of back you into lesser numbers. But you can see with the total proposed acreage of 45 acres, a little 45.5, that includes the city parcel, the newly annexed parcels. You're looking at a 6 units allowed per the PRD zoning at a possible 273 units, 409 if it was R2 zone. Of course, that does not take into account the roads, the infrastructure, and the regulations that must be met to develop a subdivision like this. Just a couple little bullet points about the analysis that staff looked at when we developed the recommendation to the Planning Commission. This subject parcel is surrounded by vacant land, residential land, and farmland. Adjacent to lots to the north within the city limits are zoned R2. Everything around it in Sullivan County is zoned A1. The staff feels that the PRD district is an appropriate zone to complement the R2 residential area, and that future development will require the Planning Commission's approval with the development and approval of a preliminary and then final plat for this development. This is an excerpt of the future land use map. Everything here in purple indicates a medium density residential land use classification, and that is approximately 6 units per acre, so that matches up with this development. This also reflects Land Use Policy 2, which states that we should provide a housing inventory that's diverse in dwelling type, unit type, size, and design that supports the local population, attracts new residents, and creates a high-quality residential environment. We did place public notice signs on the property. Adjacent parcels, adjacent property owners were notified of this request by letter. We did receive telephone calls with questions up until the June 7th meeting. We had 10 telephone calls. We had 8 comment letters received, 3 in favor of the rezoning and 5 in opposition. Since the June City Council meeting, we haven't had any additional feedback or calls or comments on this request. But the signs, of course, were changed to reflect this meeting date and time, location. And again, as Mr. Soares stated in the introduction, the Planning Commission did review this at their May meeting, and there was a motion made to send a favorable recommendation to City Council, but the motion did not pass, and that was a 4-4 vote. That I'd be happy to answer any questions or skip back to any slides and expand on that information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? If so, please come to the podium and state your name and address before making your comments. Okay, seeing none, this public hearing is hereby closed. The public hearing is hereby open for Ordinance 22-9, amending the city zoning map by designating the newly annexed property adjacent to Fox Meadows subdivision as PRD, Planned Residential District. Mr. Soares, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor, as indicated earlier, this is companion ordinance to 22-8, and this deals with the recently annexed property, as you indicated, that was approved at our June 7th meeting, and part of that then is following up with that with a formal designation of the new zoning for that particular property. As it's located in Sullivan County right now, it's designated as an A1, which is agriculture or large estate district. The developer has requested the PRD zoning designation of planned residential development. And again, for the same reasons as we stated in 22-8, it does allow more flexibility in terms of developing the property, especially as with the lay of the land there and the more flexibility with setbacks. The issue, this combined with 22-8 would rezone the property and make it available for 176 or an estimated 176 single-family homes, along with, as I indicated earlier, a $60 million capital investment. This matter was considered by the Planning Commission at their April 18th meeting, and at that meeting they gave this recommendation a unanimous favorable approval. So, Sheriff, I know you can speak to this if you like. Essentially, the same zoning criteria with the PRD that was stated in 22-8 will apply for 22-9.
Council, any questions? Would anyone in the audience like to address the council on this matter? If so, please come to the podium and state your name and address before making your comments. Seeing none, this public hearing is hereby closed. This brings us to the appearance of citizens section of our agenda. This section provides an opportunity for the public to address City Council on any matter that is not on the printed agenda for formal consideration. Comments are limited to matters of city business only. A response will not likely be made at this time, since in most cases, neither the council nor the city manager will be prepared to effectively respond to the concern. The city manager will look into the matter and report back to City Council, or as appropriate, have staff meet with you in an effort to satisfy your concern. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual and are not transferable to other individuals. Groups are encouraged to select a spokesperson to represent them. I've been provided a list of individuals desiring to address council this evening. First on the list is Ms. Jennifer Hartler-Rode.
Thank you, Mayor Luttrell, and thank you, members of the City Council. My name is Jennifer Hartler-Rode. I live at 108 Sequoia Lane. I am just less than a mile from the state border, extremely close to the landfill. I came here tonight to thank you sincerely for myself and other members of East Bristol. We're still experiencing what we have been, of course, but there is hope for us because of your efforts. I know that it was a difficult decision, and again, I just want to thank you so much for looking out for your citizens. I can't express how much I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartler-Rode. Next, we have Mr. John Link.
Hello, John Link, 1100 George Avenue, Bristol, Tennessee. I really did just come for 2 brief things. I want to thank the City Council again for the landfill. We can continue to be assaulted by the beast, but there's hope, and we really appreciate you doing everything you can to protect the citizens, and I know many of you care about both sides. Secondly, I just want to thank the council and especially Terry Napier and Taylor Harmon. Just a few months ago, we came before council about a skate park, and they popped into action. We had some meetings, and Mr. Napier was able to come up with and get approval for the old tennis court at the Rooster Front. It's up, it's going. We're really excited about it, and we look forward to working with the city on a future location for the permanent park. Thank you.
I will say thank you for, I've seen you've been out blowing it off and cleaning it up. And
Community service.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Do we have anyone else in attendance this evening that would like to address council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
We've got one.
I'm sorry.
George Link, 307 Rutledge Street, Bristol, Tennessee. I'm going to second what my father said. I wanted to thank Terry and Taylor and the Parks and Rec Commission and everybody who's listened. The last 2 months, we formed this group called Skate Bristol, and we're going to be working with Believe in Bristol to help the city in whatever ways we can to help take a little bit of ownership in this park and be good stewards to it. And we're going to be pursuing a 501c3 and to be something like Friends of Steele's Creek, but we'll be Friends of the Skate Park. But I just wanted to comment on some things. We rode in the 4th of July parade right behind y'all, and I'm sure most of y'all probably heard us rabble-rousing back there. Some of the comments that were made from members of the group, I think it's important that the community hears this at large, is, you know, when you have people from a counterculture that typically has a reputation for being noisy and angry all the time, when you hear things like, "This is the best day I've had in forever," I feel like somebody sees me. This was incredibly fun. I feel like the city has finally acknowledged us. I think it's important that you hear that, because they just, you know, they'll say it in a mumbled breath, and that's as far as it goes with them. But that's been said, and we're all looking forward to working with you and working with Terry and Taylor and whoever else is willing to listen to us. And it's been a transformative and positive experience. We had a young man in the group, his skateboard broke one day. It was an old board that he was riding. And I received 14 private messages from the group. There's 257 members in the group, and 14 people reached out seeing if they could get him a board so he could get riding again, because he wasn't sure when he was going to be able to get a new one. I think this is going to be a much more fruitful and cooperative relationship in the long term. So if you need anything, reach out to any of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I comment, which I know we don't usually comment, but George, we need to thank you immensely for the leadership you've shown and grown into with the Hope for Bristol, the air pollution group, and helping that to be as positive as it has been, for the comments, for how people have approached it. And then what a joy for moving from that for a little bit and doing the skate park. And it is phenomenal, and those comments are as much or more for you than they are for the city. And just really appreciate everything you've done, and yes, for blowing off for John as well, and your Meemaw for getting out on her scooter for the parade, etc. So anyway, we greatly appreciate it. It's also fantastic to have younger folks who are making a difference in our community. So yours is huge, so appreciate it.
John, got one question. Do you have one with training wheels on it?
I got a big old longboard that's very
Does a three-wheel bike work on those ramps? I saw the scooter attempting it. So.
Anything does if you're willing to work at it.
All right, thanks.
And I would just add, Christmas is coming, and so hopefully y'all will be in the parade at Christmas as well. It's a lot of fun, and y'all bring a lot to it. And I would just like to thank Terry Napier and Taylor Harmon, because Terry has been a huge advocate the whole way through on the behalf of our skaters. And we appreciate all that staff has done to keep this in the forefront and to not let it just sit stagnant. It was important that when it was moved that there was a new location found, and it's exciting to see what all is happening, so thank you.
Okay. We have 10 appointments to be made to 6 boards this evening. First, we have one appointment to be made to the Better Property Board. The appointment will serve a 3-year term ending June 30, 2025. The candidates are Lonnie Barrett and Alexander Brumlick. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
I'll just say, and we'll say it again and again tonight, we appreciate everybody who applies, and Lonnie Barrett has served our city in the past and on Better Property Boards as well. And also Alexander Brumlick serves our city as in our auxiliary police department too. So both of them great public servants.
Okay, I will remind it that it does take 3 affirmative votes for an appointment. So, Fire Robin votes for Alexander Brumlick. Luttrell votes for Lonnie Barrett. Powers votes for Lonnie Barrett. And Turner votes for Lonnie Barrett. Lonnie Barrett has the prerequisite 3 votes.
Next, we have one appointment to be made to the Bristol Public Library Foundation. The appointment will serve a 3-year term ending June 30, 2025. The candidate is Mr. David Rudd. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidate?
I just wanted to, David Rudd is great, and he is on our Better Properties Board. And just wanted to say for public to understand that the Library Foundation asks us, the 2 cities, to appoint a member. Then the rest of their members are chosen like regular board members, which are chosen by people volunteering in the board looking for new members.
Okay.
Yeah, I've known David for a few years now. He and his wife, Lisa, they retired from the United States Navy and decided to relocate here to Bristol, and they've just been very involved in the community, and I think that they're going to do a lot more in the future with us.
Okay, Luttrell votes for David Rudd. Powers votes for David Rudd. Turner votes for David Rudd. And Fire Robin votes for David Rudd.
We have 3 appointments to be made to the Emergency Communications District Board of Directors. The appointments will serve a 4-year term ending June 30, 2026. The candidates are Alexander Brumlick, David Ring, and Blaine Wade. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
I will. What a great lineup. We have 3 very strong candidates, and appreciate all of them being willing to serve. David is here with us tonight. Is Alex here with us? I don't see Alex, but tremendous credentials along with Blaine Wade. So, thank you for your service, and thank you for agreeing to serve.
Okay. Fire Robin votes for Alexander Brumlick, David Ring, and Blaine Wade. Turner votes for Alexander Brumlick, David Ring, and Blaine Wade. Powers votes for Alexander Brumlick, David Ring, and Blaine Wade. And Luttrell votes for Alexander Brumlick, David Ring, and Blaine Wade.
Next, we have 3 appointments to be made to the Parks and Recreation Commission. The appointments will be for 3-year terms ending June 30, 2025. The candidates are Clyde Downs, Christopher Estep, David Warren, and Cheryl Willinger. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
Again, could speak on for all of them. Clyde Downs has been on, and I think he served 1 term. Mr. Estep has been on in the past and a swim coach at the schools. David Warren is a CPA that works a lot in the community, particularly with individuals and nonprofits. And Cheryl Willinger is on Friends of Steel Creek and an incumbent for that board.
Fire Robin votes for Clyde Downs, David Warren, and Cheryl Willinger. Turner votes for Clyde Downs, Christopher Estep, and Cheryl Willinger. Powers votes for Clyde Downs, Christopher Estep, and Cheryl Willinger. And Luttrell votes for Clyde Downs, David Warren, and Cheryl Willinger. Okay, Counselor, we've got Downs, looks like he's got 3. Cheryl Willinger has the prerequisite 3. And neither of the other 2 received, neither David Warren nor Christopher Estep received the prerequisite 3 votes. You do have another ballot if you'd like to do something with that, or we could table the 1 appointment until next month.
I would suggest that we table the 1 appointment until next month.
Okay.
I'm good with that. I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah. Agreed.
Do we need to say?
We need to vote on it?
No, just
Good.
They
We
just
always
didn't get
look
the
to
prerequisite
advice
3.
from our attorney for Robert's rules and be sure we're doing things correctly.
Okay, we have one appointment to be made to the Planning Commission. The appointments will be for a term of 3 years ending June 30, 2025. The candidates are David Aker III, Kevin Buck, and Catherine Steigers. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
Could speak on all three again. So, anyway, David Aker is here, and besides being a county commissioner, I've served on Parks and Rec the last little bit, and he's done a great job with chairing our Parks and Rec. He's also on BTS board. Kevin Buck is incumbent and has done landscape architecture and is helpful. Catherine Steigers is on our BZA and has a background in urban planning and development. So all of them come with great, with good credentials. So.
Okay. Robin votes for Catherine Steigers. Turner votes for David Aker III. Powers votes for David Aker III. And Luttrell votes for David Aker III. David Aker III has the prerequisite votes.
Congratulations.
Next, we have one appointment to be made this evening to the Power Board. The term of the appointment is for a period of 4 years ending June 30, 2026. The candidate is Aaron Downs. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidate?
I would. I'll jump in.
All three of us, 4 of us could speak.
I will say Erin has provided us with outstanding leadership as the chair of BTES currently. And she also serves on Sullivan Networks Partnership. She has brought her skill set as an attorney to that position, and she's just a brilliant mind, and I think we're very fortunate to have her.
I agree, absolutely.
I would
She's done
say
a great
the same
job on
thing.
the board that I served with her, so, yeah.
Robin votes for Aaron Downs. Powers votes for Aaron Downs. Turner votes for Aaron Downs. And Luttrell votes for Aaron Downs.
Okay. We have several ordinances and resolutions for consideration on tonight's agenda. The first item is Ordinance 22-11, renaming Ajero Drive to Ayers Place. Mr. Sore, would you please summarize this Ordinance 22-11?
Yes, Mayor, as council's aware, in 2018, Sprint Drive, which was the Sprint facility, was located at the end of what was termed at that time Sprint Drive. And that facility was acquired by Ajero as a new call center. And at that time, the request was made to rename Sprint Drive to Ajero Drive. Since that time, Ajero has gone the automation route, and they have sold their facility to Advanced Call Center Technology, or ACT. So it's really no longer the Ajero Drive. So rather than, I think what the recommendation coming to you tonight from the Planning Commission, rather than to name this after a particular business that's located on the drive, to rename it after more of a geographical landmark. And Ayers Place is being recommended by the Planning Commission. And this is the name of the adjacent knob property that's located behind the facility. The Planning Commission looked at this and gave favorable approval at their most recent meeting in June. Sheriff, do you have anything to add to this? Okay. This is an ordinance, so it will require 2 readings, but there is not a public hearing associated with this.
No, I think this is good that, and maybe going forward of not.
Yeah.
So-
It's a good idea.
A question, so can we make that a policy? I mean, we have our policies and procedures, indeed, what we have on our agenda, but can we do that?
I think it's probably a work session discussion. You can do anything that you'd like to do. You can incorporate that in your policies and procedures. I mean, obviously, the issue before you tonight is this one,
Right.
but you can certainly entertain that. I think it's good. It's a good practice.
Right, yeah, I would think that would be wise.
Make a motion.
And I'd just like to make the point that the Ajero jobs are very much still intact. I think there's some confusion about, we've gone from a Giro in this particular facility to the advanced call center technologies. So, Tom, could you shout out from back there or come to the podium, how many jobs do we currently have with the Giro that are retained working from home?
6.
So there's 670 jobs that have been retained through a Giro, and thank you, Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services, for that great connectivity. And then through the advanced call center technologies, they're hoping to have how many employees?
They started with 350.
350, but my understanding is that they're hoping to go even beyond that. Yes, almost 700. So I think this just shows what great opportunities we have here in Bristol. We are a positive right now of about almost 1,000 jobs between Agero and ACT, and with an additional 300 to 350 on the horizon. So it's great. We've gotten to double use out of this particular building, and a great shout out to our economic development team, both the city proper with Tom and Matt Garland, and with April Eads at BTES, along with Sullivan Networks Partnership. So we appreciate all the good work that you do. A lot of it's behind the scenes, and we're just not that aware of it. So we appreciate your time.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, definitely a win-win.
Second.
Have a second? Okay. Would any member of council like to discuss ordinance 22-11 additionally? Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote. Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Powers,
Yes.
Littrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance 22-12, amending Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 of the city's zoning ordinance as it relates to indoor storage facilities in the B3 commercial district. Mr. Sorrell, would you please summarize ordinance 22-12?
Yes, as council will recall, earlier this spring, you approved an ordinance that removed the ability to have a storage unit constructed within a B3 district. The Planning Commission at their June 20th meeting recommended some amendments to that, a text amendment to Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 of our zoning ordinance that would allow for indoor storage facilities to be constructed in a B3 district with the use of a special use permit issued by the Planning Commission. Sheriff, do you have anything beyond that to add to that? There may be some more text amendment to this that I haven't fleshed out that you would like to make sure this is presented to council.
No, I think you did an excellent job. That definition on the screen is what the Planning Commission has recommended, and the only thing I would add is that that they did stipulate that under the special use permit item, that there be also a prohibition that there be no commercial business to be operated from the individual storage units.
But storage units can still be found or located in M1 or M2.
Yes, ma'am. This would just stipulate that the particular type of storage unit facility that would go into B3 would be something that was indoor accessible and would require the special use permit.
Well, and I think the concern, if you look at other communities around our area, there's just so much land. And, as we continue to move forward, we want to be sure that land is most attractive, whether it is a storage facility, that it be indoor in nature, if it is through special use through the B3. So I think it's a good move, and I think the Planning Commission has come up with a good solution.
Okay, any other questions of staff?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Would anyone in the audience like to address council on this matter? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote, Mary Lee.
Powers,
Yes?
Littrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is the second reading of ordinance 22-8, amending the city's zoning map by designating certain property within the Fox Meadows subdivision as PRD, Planned Residential District. Staff summarized this issue during the public hearing earlier this evening. Does any member of council have any questions? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Would any member of council like to discuss ordinance 22-8?
I just, at the risk of saying anything, anyway, but we know this has been difficult. We know it's been difficult for the folks in that area to see what they know change. But I think Ms. Councilwoman Powers at the last meeting did a really good job of explaining the difference between developing with this zone in the city versus with the county. Also, thank you, Ms. Young, with particularly the slide that shows how many could be done now with the current zoning, how much could be done with this zoning, and it's actually fewer. And I do know that a concern is multi-family for apartments or condos, and we're taking that to heart and going to talk about how to handle that in our zoning. But we also, I feel pretty good last time the developer was here, and several direct things directed at him. I think, first off, I think he fully intends to develop what was proposed, but I think also the discussion that was here puts him in a position where he absolutely will follow through. That does not include apartments and condos. So anyway, but just wanted to acknowledge that this hasn't been easy, and it's not easy for us either, but we do feel like it's the best way forward with going with this plan. So thank you.
Okay, the public had an opportunity to comment on this issue during the public hearing, so I believe we're ready for a vote. Mary Lee, would you please call the roll?
Powers.
Yes.
Luttrell.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Fire.
Yes.
And Mayor, I would say this, is that our planning department's work is not finished with this project, and it will be very important for our planning department to provide the oversight to assure that the homes are built to the codes and specifications that we hope to bring to all of Bristol. So it has been a hard decision. It has been a hard conversation, but we know that housing is desperately needed, and we appreciate the community having an open mind as we move forward.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the second reading of Ordinance 22-9, amending the city zoning map to establish the zoning designation for the recently annexed Fox Meadows expansion. Staff summarized this during the public hearing earlier this evening. Does any member of council have any question for staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Move to approve.
Second. Would any member of council like to discuss Ordinance 22-9? The public had an opportunity to comment on this issue during the public hearing, so I believe we're ready for a vote. Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Powers.
Yes.
Luttrell.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Fire.
Yes.
Okay, next we have Resolution 22-53, amending the rules and procedures of City Council. Mr. Soar, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, as council's aware, the rules and procedures of City Council, which Councilwoman Fairmount referenced a few moments ago, really guides the decisions or how your process for making decisions. For that is everything from board appointments to meetings to the selection of mayor and vice mayor. As council certainly aware, this new document reflects the amendments to the charter that moves the selection of mayor and vice mayor to January with the seating of council that's elected in November. But also there's been some discussion amongst council about the starting time for work sessions, and then also the starting time for the business meetings. I think as we discussed this matter during our called meeting last week, it was determined that we would put it on our agenda for this evening to enable all five to have a discussion of that starting time. I think given one absence tonight, I would suggest you postpone debate on this issue until perhaps your work session, and then place it on the August agenda. But certainly, if it's your desire to move forward tonight, that's fine too.
I mean, I've said, I think of leaving this meeting at the 7 is where it should be, of the public being able to attend, of getting off work, if they have kids, and getting them fed, if they decide they want to join. And I think 5 o'clock for our work session is a good time. That's looking out with staff. They don't have an hour of waiting around to come to work session, so that's where I am of 7 and 5. So I don't know where, and I believe, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I have spoken with Mr. Hutton, and I believe he feels the same way with the 7 and 5. So, I mean, if the rest of council feels the same way, then I don't see why we can't just go ahead and.
You obviously can. It's on your agenda.
Yeah, take care of this.
Make the motion.
Make a motion. Should the motion of adding, Danielle, the 7 and the 5 into our rules and procedures as far as our business meeting and 5 o'clock for the, would I need to include that in the motion?
It would probably, yeah. Would you
Yes,
go ahead,
because I
Ms.
don't
Meyer?
think that the rules and procedures, the draft that's attached to your motion actually says that right now, so we'll have to update so if you would put that in your motion, you can vote on that.
Yeah, I make the motion for adopting the current draft and adding for our business meeting of 7 o'clock and our work session for 5 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Okay. Would any member of council like to have any more discussion? Hearing none, I believe we're ready for a vote, Mary Lee.
Powers,
Yes, ma'am.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution 22-54 confirming the appointment of a student member to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Mr. Sorrell, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor, annually, I know it gives council a great deal of pleasure to appoint a student member to the Parks and Recreation Commission. The commission is comprised of 12 members. Of those 12, 2 are student representatives that are selected by the principal at Tennessee High School or the Tennessee High School staff. Dr. Kim Kirk, principal at Tennessee High, has recommended Payne Ladd to serve as the student representative and I think that's a 2-year term. Is that correct? 2-year term. So he's a rising junior that would be on the commission for that period of time.
Does any member of council have questions of staff?
Motion to approve. Oh, okay.
Before we move on, I would like to make a comment. I know Mr. Ladd, he's been working for Bristol baseball a couple of summers now, and he's a very outstanding young man, and I think he would be good. Now, is there a motion? Got a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Would any member of council like to discuss the resolution?
Just at some point, and I know we're working on our youth participation through youth group, youth council, but with as much going on with our Parks and Rec and with as much variety, we also, first off, we put for a long time, we had one student. We added two, so they have company with each other, and so also there's continuity with one in one grade, one in the other, so somebody's always more experienced and helps the other one along. But we saw tonight with our skateboard park, we have kickball, we have, there's a lot of different things that our community is expanding to. So we might want to think about how we can get a little more community input on some of the less usual, some of the less traditional sports for Parks and Rec. So, and Nerf ball or whatever, it's that whole deal. And anyway, there's just a whole lot of different areas of Parks and Rec, so it might be good to think about and work with our current staff for how we might get some different input. So just a thought.
Okay, would anyone in the audience like to address council? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote, Mary Lee.
Powers,
Yes.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 22-55, approving an agreement with Bristol Holdings LLC to lease space for the development of a pickleball court facility. Mr. Soar, would you please summarize this
Yes, sir.
matter for the public?
Yes, as council's aware, Bristol Holding LLC, which is the owner of property at the Bristol Sportsplex, is interested in a potential public-private partnership that would allow for the development of 12 outdoor public pickleball courts. And as council is also aware, pickleball is probably the largest growing racket sport. It appeals to all ages and has certainly been a much sought-after recreation amenity in our community. This partnership provides an opportunity for a 30-year lease that would allow the city to develop the outdoor pickleball courts, this recreation amenity, along with associated parking and circulation drive associated with it. But it will remain in the hands of the tenant long-term in terms of ownership. The owners also plan to do recreation programming on it in terms of tournament play and so forth. But when not in use for tournament play, it will be open for the public at all times. So it's a good example, I think, of how to partner with the private sector to create something truly significant in terms of a recreation amenity for our community. Terry's going to detail this. I know you have heard this a couple of times at work sessions, but the general public has not. So Terry's going to brief them on this issue.
Yeah, just, yes, it is growing. It is growing very rapidly, and I didn't realize how rapid it was growing. We're a member of the United States Tennis Association, so I get a monthly newsletter. They've actually been tracking pickleball, and they're actually making it a part of what they do now because it is growing. So there is a mesh of the two sports. We've had pickleball in Bristol for probably about 12 years. I think we put our lines in the gymnasium. We've since grown. We converted a couple of our old tennis courts into pickleball courts, but we just can't meet the need. It's growing. Every community is growing. And we were presented with this opportunity. Many of you are familiar when it was the Bristol Indoor Tennis Center. The original courts were right beside of the building, and that was a leased property. They ended up building new courts next door. So the 2-acre site we're talking about is actually where the old courts were at for the Indoor Tennis Center. So it's kind of a bonus for us because it's already prepped for tennis courts. We don't have to go in and grade land and do all the normal things that you would have to do. We'll just have to go in and remove the asphalt and do a little prep work. Basically be ready for not only the courts but also the adjacent parking. But this particular lease, it is 1305 Bluff City Highway, which is the property beside the sportsplex. It's owned by Matt and Holly Lavender, and you've heard from Matt, and they're both very excited. They've been excited about this project since the very beginning. If you haven't been to the sportsplex to see what they're doing, it's worth a visit to see what they've done and what their plans are. It's a great asset to our community. It's a great tie to us from the rec side, the things they're doing, the programming that they offer, and at the level they offer is beyond what we could do from a Parks and Rec perspective as far as their professional instructors at many different activities. It is an annual lease. Again, it's the 5 outdoor courts. It is a public park. It will be built, designed, maintained as a public park, as all of our parks are. But with the agreement, Sportsplex agreed to host all of our tournaments and to maintain all of our programming. Now, when they offer programming, that will be fee-based programming, obviously to pay their instructors. And we'll always keep, a number of courts open like we do out of Stone. When we have activities there, we always keep public courts open. So we'll always be maintained as a public park. But we will partner with the Sportsplex through this agreement. They will manage the tournaments. We will assist as they need us to, but they will oversee the tournaments and they will oversee the programming. Just a quick view of the courts. The big white building to the left, we're talking about the gray area to the center. Like I said, it's about 2 acres. 25 feet closest to the building will be maintained by the Sportsplex, and I'll show you why. We'll maintain the green space close to Bluff City Highway, one, because you need green space, but two, they also are offering soccer in this facility indoor, and this will give them an outdoor element as well. There'll be parking and a roadway that connects from Bluff City Highway down to Raytheon Road. With this design, they have indoor pickleball courts, they have indoor tennis courts, and they also have outdoor courts. We have the ability to convert all those to pickleball courts during a tournament. So, we can probably right now, when this is finished, be one of the largest pickleball complexes in the state for a tournament, which is pretty cool. But again, here's just showing the land and the 25 feet that they're going to maintain, and then our outlet agreement on the Bluff City Highway. We tried to write everything into here. We know properties change, things change, so we tried to write protections for the public, the city, as well as the property owners who are very generous in this whole proposal. This is a concept drawing from an aerial view. Top of the screen is the existing courts. The 2 to the left are hard courts. The 4 to the right are clay courts. And then what we're proposing for our 12-court complex, and then that 25-foot social space beside of our courts, maintained on their property, maintained by them. This is a view from Bluff City Highway looking back toward their building. Nice, but not over the top, easy to maintain, very, very nice, well-built facility. In the very back, you'll see a restroom building. That'll look very much like what you see at Idlestone. The same concept. We'll piggyback off of some of those plans, which are our standard plans for our restrooms in all of our parks. This is what one of their concepts for their 25-foot area, the social space, seating, stage. So right beside of our courts, and again, this would be maintained by them and not the city. So that's what we've proposed tonight through the lease, and the consent agenda. You also have a proposal for the contractor to begin the plans for this, should it approve.
I think it's going to be a great project. It shows with the public-private, and it's going to be exciting.
It's a good opportunity for everybody.
And for that part of town, I feel like that, with having this and the tournaments of the possible development that could go on.
It's a good springboard. The Sportsplex is already seeing their numbers considerable increase from our local cities. I think this is probably going to put it over the top.
Yeah.
Would you speak just a little bit about the size and breadth of tournaments that they're hoping to bring?
They're hoping to do, and again, you've got to get in and learn. You got to make a name for yourself. So they're hoping to do 4 national level tournaments. That's kind of our goal, is to get to the point of 4 national tournaments, and then do a monthly, more regional style tournament. So that's our goal to get to. Hopefully we can exceed that, but we know with all this, you have to get in the market, you have to get known, people have to like you, you have to do everything right. So we'll work hard, we'll assist them in what they need, and again, I think it's very positive for the city, certainly very positive for that end of the Volunteer Parkway, and we all know that there's some things that need to develop down there, and hopefully this will just be one thing that helps with that development.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's no question that they'll do a great job with it. Just look at what they've done already with their existing property.
So, putting you on the spot just for historical perspective, can you remember when, I think that y'all have had pickleball inside. I know people played badminton, and I think some of those folks moved to pickleball. Do you remember how long ago that
It's been a little over 12 years. We actually had a couple that moved here from Florida that were using the senior center and had asked about pickleball, and we had never heard of it. So we did some quick research, and it just happened to be a time when we were refinishing our gym floor. So we just asked that they paint the pickleball lines. Honestly, the first couple of years, it didn't see a lot of use.
Right.
We actually found some old wooden paddles downstairs in the closet from 50 years ago. That's certainly not the case now. It's pretty much wide open. We could do it, you know, twice what we do. We just don't want to kick anybody else out of the gym.
That's about what my dad died in 2015, and he had played pickleball he was a tennis player, very serious tennis player, but as he got older, he took up a little bit of pickleball and played here with Ed Burke and some other folks who were badminton players. So.
Most people think of pickleball as an older sport, but honestly, the thing that's making it so popular is a shorter course, the paddle and that particular ball and the slower movement. Grandparents can play with their grandkids, and it be a fair match. So the court and the ball, the equipment's the great equalizer, and that's what's making it so popular.
Great.
This is another step towards building a vibrant community. People want to live in a vibrant community. We talk about population and maybe a decrease in population, and so what entices people to live in different places is the vibrancy that they can experience in a community, whether they are of working age or whether they are of retirement age. And pickleball is a sport for the ageless. Young children can play up to 85, 90, or as old as they want, as long as their knees hold up. But, you know, this is one thing that we've taken a good look at, is what are the elements of vibrancy in our community that will be enticing to more and more people to move into our community. And it's going to be a tremendous partnership with the Lavenders. They do things very well, and so we feel like this will be a good move. So I'm really excited about it. Ida Jones drove by Ida Jones last night and covered up. It was great to see it covered up to the degree that it was. There were children playing soccer down on the practice field beside that. You know, we've got people at the skate park. Still Creek is covered up. Vibrancy in a community is very important to the success of its economic development.
Yeah, we worked very hard to provide a multitude of programs to encourage people to get back out. I mean, we had a 2-year hiatus where people found other things to do and got real comfortable at home. So the Park and Rec staff's worked really hard. I mean, from, like I said, from the kickball to the different concert series we're offering, the Nerf games at Steel Creek Park. You know, we've had over 1,000 people participate in those Nerf games to this point. So, you know, we're just hitting everything we can to try and get people out, get them active, and get them enjoying their community again, change those bad habits.
Yep.
John?
Now we just need Greenway, so that people can get on the Greenway and go between things and ride those skateboards and
Or a community center.
things, and a community
It's on the
center.
agenda.
Don't say or.
Just in case you forgot.
Don't say
We
or,
haven't.
Terry.
We haven't. Well, and it's encouraging that Sullivan County is looking to find a location for a health department outlet here in Bristol. And I know Margaret has advocated for that for a long time. I've advocated for it as well because a healthy community is a more successful community. We know that.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any member of council like to discuss Resolution 2255?
I think we jumped
kinda
ahead.
did.
Okay, we're ready to vote, Mary Lee.
Did public get opportunity? Did we already ask? I missed that.
Not,
Does anybody want to speak to it? Go.
was an ask, yeah.
We're good.
Powers,
Yes.
Lettrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
This brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Sawyer, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Okay, in about 20 minutes, I'll be through.
It's a long one.
It is a long one, as is
Let's see
our
if you're a
custom in
speed
July.
reader. Be a speed reader.
I'll do the best I can with that. Okay, we have the minutes of the June 7th, 2022 City Council meeting, minutes of the June 28th Call City Council meeting, minutes of the June 28th City Council work session, Resolution 2256 approving an agreement with Abuse Alternatives for funding support, Resolution 2257 approving an agreement with Believe in Bristol for funding support, Resolution 2258 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Birthplace of Country Music for the operation and support of the Bristol Country Music Museum, Resolution 2259 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Boone Lake Association in fiscal 2023, Resolution 2260 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Bristol Chamber of Commerce for program support in fiscal 2023, Resolution 2061 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Bristol Regional Speech and Hearing Center for funding support in fiscal 2023, Resolution 2062 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Bristol Regional Tourism Marketing Corporation for fiscal 2023, Resolution 2263 authorizing an appropriation agreement with Family Promise of Bristol, Resolution 2264 authorizing an appropriation agreement with the Paramount Foundation, Inc., Resolution 2265 authorizing an appropriation agreement with Sullivan County Family Justice Center, known as Branch House, Resolution 2266 authorizing an appropriation agreement with Second Harvest Food Bank of Northeast Tennessee, Resolution 2267 authorizing an appropriation agreement with Theater Bristol, Resolution 2268 authorizing payment in support of the United Way of Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia, Resolution 2269 authorizing grant payment in support of YMCA of Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, Resolution 2270 authorizing the purchase of turnout gear for fire personnel, Resolution 2271 awarding a bid for the purchase of delivered stone and sand, Resolution 2272 awarding a bid for the purchase of stone and sand on a picked-up basis, Resolution 2273 awarding a bid for the purchase of in-place asphalt, Resolution 2274 awarding a bid for the purchase of bulk asphalt products, Resolution 2275 awarding a bid for the purchase of bulk concrete products, Resolution 2276 awarding a bid for the purchase of rollout refuse containers, Resolution 2277 awarding bids for the purchase of bulk water and sewer supplies, Resolution 2278 awarding a bid for the purchase of automated side loader refuse collection vehicle, Resolution 2279 authorizing the purchase of field reporting software support, Resolution 2280 awarding a bid for the purchase of software support for the financial software system, Resolution 2281 awarding a proposal for mowing maintenance and litter removal, Resolution 2282 awarding a bid for resurfacing of Ida Stone Tennis Court, Resolution 2283 authorizing entry into professional service agreement for designing of new pickleball park, Resolution 2284 authorizing entry into a professional service agreement for conceptual plans for an active recreation area, Resolution 2285 authorizing entry into professional services agreement for DeVries Park, Resolution 2286 authorizing a standard abbreviated form of agreement between owner and architect to prepare plans for Slater Community Center renovation, Resolution 2287 authorizing entry into professional services agreement for expansion of Lakeside Trail at Steel Creek Park, Resolution 2288 authorizing a standard abbreviated form agreement between owner and architect to prepare plans for City Hall Annex roof replacement, Resolution 2289 authorizing a payment of Troutman Pepper Sanders LLP for legal fees, Resolution 2290 authorizing the purchase of police training simulator, Resolution 2291 authorizing the purchase of road barrier system, Resolution 2291 awarding a bid for the purchase of portable X-ray units for police hazardous device units, Resolution 2293 awarding a bid for the purchase of taser sets for the police department, and Resolution 2294 authorizing the purchase for Greensmore for Steel Creek Golf Course. And that's it.
Before I get into trouble, I got ahead of myself, so I know our city attorney is going to jump on me here just a minute. Do we have a motion to approve the items included in the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Lee, please call the roll.
Good for you.
Powers? Yes. Littrell?
Yes.
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 Again, my apologies. Okay, that moves us to city manager's report.
Yes,
We've got
Mayor.
the airlift.
All right, let me find that. Here we go. I'd like to remind council, tomorrow morning's a very important meeting of the Sullivan Networks Partnership. The topic of regionalism and the hub organization will be considered on their agenda. And I know two of you serve on that board, along with Aaron Downs as our representative from BTS, who's also our financial partner in Networks. And certainly we'll brief the remainder of council on the outcome of any decisions made tomorrow. Would also like to remind council of a called Industrial Development Board meeting on Thursday, July 14th. This is at 3:30 in our annex. And it's to hear a report from Randall Gross regarding the market research on the topic of residential and commercial development in Bristol. If you cannot be there, and I sent you a link this afternoon that was forwarded, if you can't be there in person, there is a link, and I know Randall will be participating virtually. But that will also give you an opportunity to participate in terms of, still we have to comply with the Open Meeting Act and so forth, but that will give you an opportunity if you can't be there in person. On July the 19th, we have our work session, which will be next Tuesday. Matter of fact, the first item on the agenda is Project Spirit, which is a very exciting project that we want to present to council for formal action at the August agenda, and there'll be other announcements earlier that day on Project Spirit. The question I have is, I know with your earlier action, moving a work session to 5, that there might be some moving parts still in play there and trying to make sure that the developer can be there. I mentioned this to Tom while Terry was making his presentation. Okay, and is it okay if we remain at 11 next week, or do you want us to continue to try to reschedule? If they're available, we can stay on the 5. We can go to the 5 o'clock.
In our work session that we would start this in August.
Well, and I think that makes sense to do that, but with you taking the action tonight, we just need to clarify when we're present.
Do we need to amend it to begin?
Well, no, I think you've approved it. Just give me some direction as to when it's to take place.
I'd like for us to begin all of that in August, if that's possible. What is the will of council?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Especially
So we'll stay with that.
something in the works here.
Yeah.
So we're good then. So I'd also like to introduce to council and also those in attendance tonight, David Wilson. He's our new Director of Operations. He'll be overseeing the departments of Public Services, Utility Services, and Engineering Services. David's a graduate engineer from Virginia Tech. He's a professional engineer, and he's been in both the public and the private side of engineering for over 30 years. So he's a very valuable asset to our team here. I've known David, I guess, since 93 or 94 in his association with Mattern and Craig, and I know some of you have seen plans and have been involved in projects that David has been the lead design engineer on. So we're very fortunate to have him, and I welcome Dave to our fold.
Welcome.
And that concludes my comments, Mayor.
Okay, City Council. But before we start, because I normally don't get a chance to do this, I'd like to recognize Mayor State and his wife Peg here tonight. And I believe it's Jill, the glare, I can't, okay, from the school board, Jill Harrison. And we've got, obviously, David Akert. He's here with us this evening, and we appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Now, I'm finished.
I don't have anything else to add. I think we've got a lot of good things going on in our community, and I think it's only going to get better. So,
We've got some good announcements coming. We're excited for those announcements, and school starting back. We're excited for the new school year and the success there, and Believe in Bristol has done a great job in continuing its work downtown, along with, these are the boards I serve on, the BCM, Rhythm and Roots. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, please do. We have a tremendous lineup. I don't know if you've seen Roseanne Cash's comments on social media about coming to Bristol, but I think she's very excited to be here. We've all of our departments are just outstanding and continue to, we're drinking from a fire hydrant. It's something. And welcome to David Wilson. We're delighted that you're here, and it's been a great meeting. We're meeting with a lot of good success and look forward to a great year in front of us.
So while you're talking about Rhythm and Ridge, just save me trying to make a phone call if you can answer it. Do you know, will there be Children's Day this year, or do you know what the status is at this point?
I'm not sure what the status of Children's Day is, but I'll find out and let you know.
That would be fantastic. So I just wanted to note that a lot of times for our meetings that occasionally one of us is missing, and we usually don't provide personal information, et cetera. But I wanted to say I'm not going to be here next month because it's family vacation, and that family is from Massachusetts and Arizona and California, and our children from Ohio and North Carolina and soon to be Georgia. Anyway, and just to note that these meetings are a priority, but if the public doesn't realize we have a lot of meetings and we serve on boards and commissions, and it's very difficult to not ever miss a meeting. So we try not to, but there are times that either family and taking a break, or a lot of times for folks it's work
Or illness.
That just can't do it. And we would like to see the state of Tennessee be able to allow some kind of hybrid option. We don't know that will come in our lifetimes, but it may. During COVID, not only did it protect us, but it allowed us to participate when we would not have been able to run our city otherwise. And we know there's still a fair amount of sickness. It would be very nice to be able to have, and I think in Virginia they had to have the majority present, but then they had folks who could come in virtually. So I would really hope that we might be able to do that. And I don't know if TML's in on that or working on it, but I think it really would be some kind of something to help us to move in that direction. Anyway, Health Department, thank you. Yes. I started working, and Lisa Kofer talked about the inaccessibility of our health department for our citizens, and when Jeff Broughton was here. So it's been that long that we have asked about it. Our city did respond with being able to arrange public transportation, since our buses don't go to Bluffville. So that's worked okay, but we as a community ought to have public health services here. We had it here before our hospital was rebuilt, new, and we just haven't gotten it back. So hopefully that is in the works to happen sooner rather than later, because it's already later. So hopefully before too long. The other is, I'll just reiterate what I've said at work sessions, is that I think we need to have a growth study that includes looking at our capacity and different areas. We've got a comprehensive plan that's great. We've got the plan that's coming through the IDB with the market analysis report. We have a housing study from a couple of years ago, but it's also where I think it's transition, and even just our mindset. We've been so worried about growth, and because of numerous things, including COVID, learning we can work remotely, and also climate change. Boy, are we a good location for people who live in California that has fires and earthquakes, and Florida that part of they're going into the ocean, et cetera. We are a fantastic area. And I just talked to a resident who has a new neighbor from California, and they have convinced 3 other folks to move here too. And our new neighbor is from Orlando in our neighborhood. So I think it's really time to try to look at that. We've got more residential development than we've had, we believe, in about 40 years. Our schools, we know, have to respond to that, so looking at what's needed. The item about storage units is part of growth. And how do we do that? We know casino is already having an effect, and looking at where that's going to take us. So with all those things, I think, again, it's kind of like our comprehensive plan, put the things we've got together, but also where else do we need to look, what other information? How can we be prepared and start doing some of the things? I grew up in Baton Rouge. I go back, and they had huge growth with Katrina. It is such a mess with streets that should have turn lanes, et cetera, to handle the traffic that has grown. So trying to plan and stay as much ahead of that as possible. I feel strongly we need to be looking at that. So, thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, I'll say one other thing. I'm sorry. I just wanted to acknowledge, and if it's not already announced, it's going to be announced. We lost Dr. W.A. Johnson this past week, and he is a pillar of our community. He is a pillar of the African American community. He is a pillar still of our faith community. So just wanted to acknowledge that loss for our community, and to take a minute just to appreciate his service and what he did for this community during his lifetime. So, thank you.
Okay, with that, meeting's adjourned.